Welcome to MMA on the Rocks. My name is Bill Welker. You are listening to episode 202 of the podcast. You're joining us live on Facebook or YouTube. Today's Sunday, July 26th, and we are fresh off of UFC on ESPN 14. Darren Till versus the former champ, Robert Whittaker. Before we get into all of that, let me introduce my co-host all the way from sweltering New Jersey, Jeff, the Animal Wilson. Jeff, we eating soup in this weather? Or what's going on, kid? Give us an update.
I certainly hope not, dude. It's 106 degrees today. But it is not humid, Bill, so I'm not going to complain. I can deal with anything except humidity.
Mama Wilson just warming up that soup by opening the window, setting it on the windowsill.
Yeah, she could just leave it outside for a few minutes and it'll heat right up, man.
Nice, kid. What's going on in your world? Anything new?
Not really, dude. Just, trying to figure out what's going to happen with the school year in a few weeks. I'm cool either way. I feel like my lessons, I can easily transfer them over to virtual learning. And I teach reading, so I don't have to read. I mean, I kind of know the material. The kids got to read. They can do that. They can find a PDF or something. So, it's a lot more adaptable than I guess people give credit to. But, we'll see. The big deal is, parents have to work, and can kids get their hands on technology? But, Bill, somebody out there is making a lot more money than me to figure that stuff out. So yeah. I'll let them worry about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of controversy around it because, a lot of the governments, especially the governments that are, especially the states that are run by Republican governors and stuff, seem to be really pushing opening the schools, and the teachers are upset, especially, older teachers, or, as you know, Jeff, teachers don't make a whole lot of money. There's a lot of teachers who still live at home with elderly parents or elderly relatives. So obviously you could see the concern there. They're going to have to figure something out because, the parents, a lot of parents want to get their kids back to school so they can stop working from home, go back to the office, or go back to doing whatever they're doing. I don't know if they're paying babysitters during the day. I don't know how people are getting by right now, even though a lot of stuff is open. Like if you have school age kids, I guess there's like summer camps and stuff going on, but you can't just leave your kids home alone while you go to work. It's a tough one, man. It's a real head scratcher. I don't know what the answer is, because obviously there's still a lot of scary stuff going on out there, but people are losing their livelihoods. So it's rough, man. I don't know what the answer is. And like you said, there are people who get paid a lot more than us to figure that stuff out. So hopefully they do. Hopefully they're able to come up with a solution that makes at least most people happy, because you're never going to make everybody happy. And we'll see what happens with it, man, because like I know here in Florida, school starts like the second week of August, or maybe the third week of August. So we're kind of going to be the test state again. So we're going to see how it goes, with the schools opening up, and, the governor here signed an executive order that the schools have to open in person. And I know the teacher unions are trying to fight that, but then the parents are trying to fight them. It's a whole mess, man. It's a whole mess. I'm glad I don't have to sort it out. My kid is not in regular school. She's in private daycare. So we don't have to worry about that just yet, but it's scary times, man. Pretty wild. In any case, I'll tell you a little story, Jeff. When we took the kid out to the playground today, it's pretty much, all we do. We go for bike rides and parks where there's like not a lot of people, where we can, because, kids don't know they have to maintain social distance. They're kids. They just play. So there was this other kid who, I guess she was, I don't know, she was older than my daughter, like 6 or 7, but they were kind of playing around each other, not near each other. And, she's playing with my kid. So I said hello, and she was there with like a nanny and her brother or something. And she was like, do you know who, and I forget the name. She said, let's say for sake of argument, Rebecca Johnson is. And I said, no, I don't know who Rebecca is. She's like, well, she's a fashion designer. And I said, oh, okay, that's nice. And then she's like, yeah, she's my mom. And I was like, oh, okay. She's like, haven't you ever seen her on TV, Rebecca Johnson? And I was like, no. Like, obviously, that's not really part of my world, Jeff. I don't follow fashion designers or anything. And I said, oh, did she design your outfit? And she goes, no, she bought it at Target. And it was just like, it sounded like the kid was like so disgusted to say it because her mom is, she's like bragging about who her mom is and that she's on TV. I mean, you might as well, like, hey, have you ever heard of Bill Welker? He's the host of MMA on the Rocks. Like, it may as well be the same thing. Like me going up to, have you ever heard of Jeff the Animal Wilson, kid? Anyway, I thought it was an interesting story. This kid's bragging about her mom. She's some big shot fashion designer, and mom bought her dress at Target. But in any case, that was the most exciting thing that happened this weekend. And my in-laws came over for dinner tonight, and I made pisco sours, which is always a hit. I did a little different this time. I used honey instead of sugar. Pisco sours, delicious drink. And shout out to our buddy Henzo Altuna, who hosts the MMA Finite podcast. He lives in Peru, so I'm sure he knows about this. The pisco sour is made with pisco, which is basically the leftover from it's somewhere in between wine and moonshine. So like moonshine is made from the leftover stuff that you make wine with. It's like the Everclear that's left over. But then like there's still a little bit that's kind of in the middle that's still fermented by the grapes. It gets a little bit of the grape flavor, but it's too strong to be called wine. So they call that pisco. And a lot of places it just kind of gets discarded. But in Peru, they figured out if they mixed it with lemon juice and sugar and throw a little egg white in there, blend it up with some ice, you have a tasty beverage. It's basically like a real sugary lemonade with an egg white that makes it foamy. Anyway, delicious drink. And my wife's family turned me on to them years ago. I can only have like one of them though, Jeff, because they're so sweet. And it's good, but all that sugar, that's hangover city if you're prone to hangovers. In any case, that was my weekend. Playground and pisco sours. So here we are. Let's talk some fights, man. This, I believe, was the last card in Yas Island, Abu Dhabi. And I was really excited for this main event, man. This was a real interesting matchup. I had kind of insinuated last week that Robert Whittaker would just be a little bit better everywhere than Darren Till, but Darren Till has the power advantage, and that's pretty much how it played out. Till dropped Whittaker in that first round with a big shot. He cut him open with some elbows a little later on in the fight, but for the most part, it was all Whittaker, man. I had it scored 4-1 for Robert Whittaker. I think a lot of people had it scored a lot closer. A lot of people were saying it was 2-2 going into the fifth. I just didn't see it at all. Like all those tweets that were popping up from the fighters and stuff, they're like, "Oh, I can't believe it's 2-2." I had it 3-1 Whittaker going into that fifth round. How'd you see this fight, Jeff?
Yeah, I had it scored pretty much the same way. I just saw more output from Robert Whittaker, and he did a great job of moving around. He was a moving target for Darren Till. We saw Darren Till, and he was just flat-footed, and that comes from the confidence he has in his power, and he was able to control the center of the octagon. But Whittaker just had more output, was able to dance around him a little bit. I would have liked to see him use his grappling more. We saw that at the end, which I thought was smart, Bill, because he was cut really bad on the side of his head and bleeding a lot. So I guess in his mind, he might have thought that the doctor could have stopped it. And I think Dan Hardy pointed this out as well, that he did such a good job of covering that up. So when he was grappling, with Darren Till at the end. He was digging his head into Darren Till's chest so that you couldn't see the cut. So, pro move, and, great fight from Whittaker. He showed a really technical, really calm display. Darren Till is someone who's very tough to finish on the feet, and I just thought it was a masterful performance, able to find his range after that first round. And he'd even dropped Darren Till in the second round. I think it was a left hand that put Till on his butt. So very good performance from Robert Whittaker, and a very what's the word I'm looking for? A very methodical performance.
Yeah.
It was definitely planned out, and he executed the game plan perfectly.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad you used the word technical, because from a striking standpoint and from an MMA standpoint, this is one of the most technical fights I've seen in a while. And I don't want to get too far in the weeds here, but there was just a lot of chess being played. Like, to the untrained eye, it would look like the action was just kind of slowing down, but both guys using feints, both guys using defensive tactics, setting traps. So basically, you do something and get a reaction from a guy so that you can time that reaction and use it to counter strike. And both of these guys were doing it, and neither of them were really falling into each other's traps. So Till would do something to make Whittaker move a certain way. Till would do the same thing, and then Whittaker would move a different way. And it was very subtle, and it was amazing to watch. It was such a technical battle. It was really high level striking. The other thing I liked from Whittaker was the way he mixed things up. So he would change levels and grab a single leg and then break away with a hook right away. So he has, Darren Till has to drop his hands to get his whizzers to defend the single leg. So then Whittaker would just let go and then catch him with the hook. And it landed several times. He landed that exact move like 3 or 4 times. And then he would change levels and feint the level change and then come up with a striking combination. And the other big difference was Whittaker was throwing punches and bunches, whereas, like you said, Till was trying to land that big shot, that big power shot. But Whittaker, much quicker hands and much more fluid combinations. And he was going to that calf kick, which he almost took Till off his feet in the last round with that low calf kick. So you could tell those were taking its toll. Till, man, I just feel like it was too much too soon for him. And he hasn't really had a chance to develop in other areas. Like, he's a great striker, but once people figure out how to deal with that, he's kind of lost on the ground. Like, if he can't power his way back up, which is pretty much his only move, he wasn't like trying to retain guard. He wasn't trying to like get his feet on the hips and create space. He was just trying to stand up, like a very Michael Bisping style. Like, Bisping was the master of that. He would get himself over to the cage and walk up the cage with his shoulders. And it worked for him. Like, he didn't have to have like good grappling defense on the ground because he didn't stay there very long. But I feel like in today's day and age, like, you have to have a little bit more grappling, at least enough to, be able to get out of some bad positions and get up without and blowing all your energy, because you're trying to explode up all the time. You're just gonna blow through your energy. And I think that's what we saw. That's why we saw Darren Till start to lose steam towards the end of the fight. But man, masterful performance by Robert Whittaker. I still saw a couple of things that worry me, like when he blitzes in with his head straight up. And that's something that like Till maybe didn't have the speed to catch, but someone like Adesanya, if he's watching that, he's licking his lips, man. So what do you think? I don't think it's right back to the title for Whittaker. I think he probably needs one more. I think he deserves it, but I don't think that's what it's going to be. So we got Adesanya and Costa coming up soon. I think the smart thing for Whittaker would be to call out Jack Hermes and try to like hedge his bet at getting this title shot. And I think that's a really fun fight too.
Yeah, dude, I would love to see that. Whittaker versus Jack Hermanson at 185. Man, just thinking about it is pretty exciting to me. But Jack Hermanson's a tough dude, man. I think that that a win over him definitely gets you a title shot. I don't think that Whittaker deserves one right away just because of how the fight with Israel Adesanya went. It was finished in 2 rounds. And Izzy just looked so good, dude. His hands were so fast. His technique was crazy.
Uh-huh.
And he was just very disciplined, and he was like a sniper in there, just with his pinpoint accuracy against Whittaker. So I think that Whittaker definitely needs one more, and I think Jack Hermanson would be that feather in that cap to. I think that's the quickest route to the title here.
Yeah, and of course Jared Cannonier's in the conversation too. So shout out to our buddy Mark Fellows from Australia tuning in. I'm sure he's ecstatic about the big win from Whittaker last night. He says that it should be Whittaker versus Cannonier and then Till versus Hermanson. The only problem I see with that is Hermanson's coming off a big win over Gastelum and Till's coming off a loss. I personally want Till and Romero. That's just a fun fight that I want to see. I think those guys would put on a show, and that's what I want. And then I don't know what that does with Jared Cannonier. It's kind of it kind of leaves him in the outliers. Maybe give him the loser of Adesanya Costa. But it's not a bad problem to have, man, when you have all these contenders floating around. Joe Sutton says that Till should have used some more combinations, and he had a bunch of chances to hit him. Yeah, that's true, but easier said than done. Like Jeff was saying, Whittaker was good at being a moving target. So it was a really fun fight. If you were following like all of the subtle things they were both doing in setting the traps and trying to bait the other guy into moving in certain ways, and the feinting and all the small little technical details they were using to fuck with each other, it was just a fantastic thing to watch. And what's next? I mean, we're going to see that play out. Whittaker's not going to make a ton of noise, so he's probably going to take whatever they throw at him. He's not going to be screaming and crying about who he fights next. Like, he'll just, all right, you want me to fight Cannonier? Cool. You want me to fight Jack Hermanson? Cool. Let me know when. I'll be there. And you have to respect that about Whittaker. And same with Till. Till will take on the biggest challenge that you put in front of him. It was a bold move calling out Whittaker. He even said he thought it was the toughest fight for him in the division, which kind of sets him up for, like, if he had beat Whittaker, he's like, well, I already beat the guy that was the toughest fight for me, so now, like, the champ would be easy. So smart head games there. You can tell these guys are very cerebral in the way they're fighting and in the way they're marketing themselves. So I thought it was awesome, man. I thought it was one of the best technical fights I've seen in a long time. And there's, like I said, I don't want to get too far into the weeds, even though I already did, just because I got so excited watching this fight last night. But it was really fun. But we could spend a whole episode on this one fight, and I'd be totally fine with that if I watched it a few more times. But that's not really what we're all about here. We're about covering as much as possible. So let's get into this co-main event here, Jeff. Shogun Rua and Antonio Rogerio Nogueira. The third time. So Shogun has now won 3 of these matchups. And it was a great fight. There was a lot of action, a lot of back and forth. They both had their moments in this fight. They definitely both left it all out on the line, left everything in the cage. For whatever reason, Jeff, like, I guess emotionally, I couldn't get into this one. I think just because, like, I knew Lil Nog was retiring. I knew Shogun had already won twice. And it was a split decision, so it was a close fight, but it just didn't do a whole lot for me. And I almost feel like a bad fan for that, but that's just, that's just the fact of the matter. Change my mind, Jeff. Tell me something different here.
Bill, these guys went to war with each other, man. This fight was awesome. There was blood everywhere. We saw Shogun Rua go for a takedown, which, who was it that posted? I think it was Aljamain Sterling. I remember laughing at this comment. He said, on Twitter. He said that Shogun Rua broke the unspoken rule that they wouldn't go for takedowns, but he was in trouble at the end of that first round, dude. I think he had no choice but to go for that takedown. Bill, I'll be honest with you, I was not excited for this fight heading into it, just because Shogun Rua's won the first two already. I don't think it makes much sense to have a trilogy fight when that happens, but man, I watched these guys fight 7 more times, Bill. This was exciting, dude. It was so back and forth. You had everything. You had ground and pound. The stand-up was good. Although, I felt like Shogun Rua was doing slightly better than Nogueira. I just think he has better technique. But, dude, I loved the back and forth of this fight, man. There were spots where I felt like Nogueira was going to win, and then at the end, Shogun Rua able to put an exclamation point on it. But, dude, I'd totally watch these guys fight if 7 more times. If either of them was like 70, I'd still watch them fight each other.
Yeah. I mean, okay. But it's like, to me, it was like, all right. So I watched the home run race between Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa in the 90s, right? When they were trying to break Roger Maris's record. This fight for me would be like if those two guys had a home run derby, but it was like softball instead of hardball. That's what it felt like for me. Like they're both like in their 60s now. Because it was so different back in the day too, Jeff. Like, and I know Dan Hardy and Paul Felder got really excited about this one because of the nostalgia. For me, I went the opposite way with it because I remember when those two gyms really hated each other, and there was really something on the line when those guys fought, and you could tell by the way they fought when they fought back in Pride. Like there was actually pride on the line because the Shoot the Box gym and the Nogueira brothers gym, they did not get along. They hated each other. These were the two biggest names like kind of coming up. Like Shogun was like still a little bit in the shadow of Vanderlei Silva, and Little Nog, had kind of his ups and downs, but it was like a real rivalry. Like there was a real lot behind it. And this time it was like, Nogueira's like, I want to retire and I want my last fight against Shogun. And Shogun's like, okay, buddy, you got it. You got it, man. Let's go out there and give you what you need. And they're like hugging each other after. I'm like, man, these guys like went to war 15 years ago or whenever it was the first time.
So I'd watch them go to war 15 years from now, dude, when Lil Nog is bald with liver spots on him. I'd still watch that fight.
That's horrible, Joe. It's like I feel like it was watching two grandpas get in there, and like Shogun's only 3 years older than me. Anyway, Tommaso Mark says he likes the title, and whoever title of the episode should take a shot. I'm not going to take a shot, but I do have a little bit of a Buffalo Trace here that I'm sipping on, and I'll shoot it eventually, like as we're going here. But I just needed to kind of lubricate the vocal cords, so to speak, as we go here. Yeah, for those who can't see, the title of the episode is Till the Reaper Comes. So I had a little fun with that one. We always like to have a little play on words. It's a fun game after we record the episodes, and I text Jeff like, what do we name this one? And we go back and forth with stupid puns until one of us nails it. And it's mostly to entertain us, but we get a lot of comments about the names of the episodes, Jeff. All right. The fight before this one, I'm sure was a little bit of a bummer for you, Fabricio Werdum and Alexander Gustafsson. So Gustafsson,
yeah, so I don't want to talk about it.
We got to do it, Jeff. You got to get comfortable in the uncomfortable. That's what that's what life is all about. That's how you thrive.
Yeah.
What were you saying to me about you can't forge steel without fire, something like that?
I said the hottest fires forge the strongest steel, Bill, but didn't work out. Not for Alexander Gustafsson.
Yeah, man, it's tough because like Werdum is a guy like once he gets a hold of you, and I knew Gustafsson was in trouble when you could kind of see Werdum's abs, because Werdum is one of these guys who like how well he does in the fight is pretty much always correlated with how good a shape he's in. Like when he got cut from the UFC, years back. He fought an unknown guy by the name of Junior Dos Santos. This guy was coming in, and Werdum was like on his way to the title. Like he was on a total hot streak, and he came in like the fattest he'd ever looked against JDS. Totally underestimated this guy. Thought this guy's a boxer. I'm just going to be able to submit him easy. And, we all know how that went down. And, if it wasn't for that, if Werdum had trained hard his entire career and showed up for every single fight, there's a good case that he's the greatest heavyweight of all time. And if you take away like the suspension stuff, but like, there's that conversation with every greatest heavyweight of all time. Like, we don't know what the hell Fedor was doing his whole career, but you look at this guy's resume. I mean, Fedor, tapped out Fedor, like that in itself, it just incredible, the body of work here. If you go up and down, Cain Velasquez, Mark Hunt, Travis Brown, Nogueira, Roy Nelson, Fedor, Bigfoot Silva. It just goes on and on. There's a great case for this guy being the greatest heavyweight of all time. If if those 9 losses he had, like maybe if he prepared a little bit better and could have won, we'd be having a different story. But at the same time, I was talking to somebody about this earlier today. If he didn't get cut from the UFC that first time, he wouldn't have beaten Fedor, and like that hurt his legacy. Maybe he would have won the UFC title and gotten lazy and gotten hurt or something, get knocked out real bad. So it's just so tough, man. Like 12 wins by submission over his career, which is phenomenal for a heavyweight, 42 years old. And to be able to take out a hammer like Gustafsson, who looked bigger than him, it was really impressive. So I know you don't want to, Jeff, but give me your thoughts.
Yeah, dude, I felt like this time it was Gustafsson who wasn't prepared. I felt like he had some good spots. The initial takedown that Werdum went for, Gustafsson was able to reverse and land on top, and he just couldn't do anything with it. It looked like he could have taken his back, but Gustafsson, I don't know, dude. I know he's a good wrestler, but I don't know how good his jiu-jitsu is. I know he has like 1 submission win, maybe 2, but I felt like he could have been a little bit better prepared. I don't know how much the extra weight affected him, but I don't think it would have affected him too much just because of how tall Gustafsson is, and I feel like he probably walks around not at 205, probably a little bit heavier than that. But, I think that for your first fight at heavyweight, that's also a tall order, dude. Fabricio Werdum's the real deal. Former UFC heavyweight champ, tapped out Cain Velasquez, like you said, who, Cain Velasquez, if it weren't for all of his injuries, we'd probably be saying he's the greatest heavyweight of all time. So, tough order. Mark Fellows actually says that Gustafsson versus Volkov might be fun. I think so, too, because, Volkov's not going to go to the ground with Gustafsson. He's going to stand and bang with him. So I think that would be a fun fight. And Bill, I'd actually like to see Fabricio Werdum take on Alistair Overeem next if they haven't fought each other in the UFC yet. I think that would be a very fun fight to put on.
They have. And Overeem beat him in 2017 by decision, and I believe they fought once more. Yeah, so Overeem's beaten him twice because he beat him in Strikeforce as well.
Okay, I knew the Strikeforce one. I forgot that they fought in the UFC.
Yeah, it's interesting because it there's such short-term memory with this stuff. Like this win is going to be huge to propel Gustafsson. He's coming off of 2 losses to Alexei Olenek and Volkov. So it'll be interesting. And we got a lot of young heavyweights that are up and coming right now too. So maybe you take one of them, like one of these guys that's just building their name, and put Werdum in there with him. If Werdum wins, you keep putting him back towards the title. He's 42 years old, but for heavyweight, that you're not even collecting Social Security yet. if your career was a lifespan, so to speak. Yeah, so tough one for Gustafsson, man. It's hard for me because once a guy says he wants to retire and then comes back, it's like I can't fully believe he wants to be there.
Yeah.
you know,
Agree with that.
and if he really wants to do it, great, but it's tough, man. If he's looking for that title run, heavyweight was probably the way to go, but this is a big step back. And he's got to want to do it. So we'll see. Carla Esparza and Marina Rodriguez. I thought this was a fun fight. The story of it was Carla's wrestling, not her grappling, because she kept going for that damn straight ankle lock, which I'm not a fan of for MMA. Because the straight ankle lock, it hurts, like I can say from personal experience, I'll tap to it in the gym if you have it, but like in a competition or in a fight, I'm not tapping to a straight ankle lock. Like that shit just hurts. It gives you like a dead leg for a little bit. It feels like somebody when they dig their knuckle into your muscle. But it's not gonna really break anything. Like Hector Lombard broke it, like snapped a guy's shin in half in a competition with a straight ankle lock, but that's Hector Lombard. He's not like,
his biceps alone could have snapped that shit though.
Yeah.
Hector Lombard's huge, dude.
Yeah, he can break your leg with his nostrils. Dude's a freak. But yeah, like I was saying, straight ankle lock, and forget the fact that it's just pain. So like most of the time, most fighters are not going to tap to pain. They're only going to tap if you are about to break something, or if you are restricting their air supply, or crushing their windpipe. They're not going to tap to just straight pain. And aside from it only being painful and not like long-term damaging, it exposes you to strikes. So why she would drop back into the guard from being in a dominant position to go for that ankle lock, maybe she had been getting a lot in the gym and she feels like she knows how to, some people know how to fall right into that ankle lock. But if you're getting it in the gym, like people are more likely to tap to it in the gym. So in any case, I thought her wrestling was phenomenal. I think her wrestling is very underappreciated. Like there are not a lot of women, period, who can wrestle the way Carla Esparza does, the way she chains things together and the way she's so tenacious with it. But split decision, this one could have gone either way, Jeff. I kind of agree with the way it went, but Esparza definitely looked worse for wear at the end of this with that huge hematoma over her left eye that was actually like closing. It was like creeping down her face. It was like somebody put a scoop of ice cream on her face and it was just like slowly melting over her eye as she was doing her post-fight interview.
It's a good move.
Thank you. Pride myself on that. So what do you think of this one, Jeff?
I'll be honest with you. I liked Carla Esparza's chain wrestling, but I actually thought that Marina Rodriguez kind of won this one just because she was able to do damage even from the bottom.
Yeah.
So, I kind of had it going her way, just because, even in bottom position, she was still throwing the elbows up, able to hurt Carla Esparza from the bottom. So, for me, it was a little bit more of an output thing and damage. But, like I said, it could have gone either way for me. But yeah, good win for Carla Esparza. I believe she snaps Marina Rodriguez's unbeaten streak, if I'm not mistaken. Was that her first loss, Bill?
I think it was. I'll pull it up in a second. Yeah, but that was her first loss. She's 12-1 now, but she does have 2 draws. She came off of that draw with Cynthia Calvillo, and she also had the draw against Randa Marcos. And all decisions in the UFC so far, but I feel like she's just finding her stride. She's not young; she's 33. But she's just starting to find her rhythm. She's Brazilian and she's a Thai boxer. So it's interesting because usually, you see the Brazilians and you assume they've got jiu-jitsu. Jeff, you're being called out here. Somebody's questioning the validity of the show name MMA on the Rocks because only half of the hosts have a drink in their hand.
That's all we need, Bill. I mean, I have water in my hand. That's all we need, dude.
You're the MMA and I'm the Rock.
Yeah, there you go. I
And
mean,
Mark,
a half glass full is still a glass. So
all right. And Mark says that he's never seen any ice, but it sounds better than MMA neat. Yeah, so I've talked about this a couple of times on the show. I prefer my adult beverages neat, but yeah, MMA neat would have been a silly name for a show. So we went with MMA on the rocks. And in the beginning, I used to do a lot more like cocktail recipes and stuff. You guys can still catch those. There's a playlist of them on the YouTube channel, but I just don't have the time anymore, man. All I have time for is opening a bottle and pouring it in a glass, and then we plug in the microphones and we rip and go, kid. Right?
yeah, but Bill, you got to remember, we've been doing this show so long. I think you forget you weren't a dad at the beginning of the show.
That's
Now,
true.
now you got the little bambina running around.
I know. I don't have time for ice cubes, Jeff.
Yeah, it takes too long to fill up an ice tray and wait for it to freeze. We don't have time for this.
Well, I got it built into my fridge, but still, you got to hit the button and wait for the ice to come out. Like, I got shit to do. Just give me the booze, and I'll just, I drink one on my way up the stairs to my studio, and then, pour a few more as I'm sitting here talking to you. I drink enough for the both of us. So there we go. There's our answer. Paul Craig, first round triangle choke submission over Gadzhimurad Antigulov. Try and spell that one, Jeff. Do you have it in front of you?
Oh, nah, dude, I'm losing this spelling bee.
All right, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna be hacks and do like bits. I'm not about that.
Yeah, man, that is one spelling bee that I'd probably tap out in that spelling bee. But dude, this was a really exciting fight, man. Paul Craig, so well rounded, and he's somebody who, he's a good striker, but he's got a couple of wins by submission. And I'll be honest with you, Bill, the fact that Antigulov is, coming out of Russia and Dagestan, I thought we were going to see a little bit more danger for Paul Craig being on the bottom. But dude, he stayed relaxed in there. He was able to focus on the technique, not just the beating that he was getting, because he was getting beat up from that position, and able to keep focused. Things are still dry in that first round, so he locked on the triangle and cinched it up a little bit and able to really take his time with it. And at the end, got the submission. So good for him, dude.
Yeah, he looked real good. He had to pay for that triangle, though, man. That thing didn't come free. He put himself in a position where he got stacked real bad by Antigulov and took some big hammer fists while he was tightening that thing up. It looked like he probably had a fractured eye socket. Maybe not like a full break, but at least a small fracture, because that thing was swelling up, man. He took some big hammer fists to get that tap, and that's kind of the risk you go for with these submissions sometimes, especially from the bottom in MMA, which is why you don't see a whole lot of them. But yeah, and Antigulov, accomplished grappler himself. He's got like 15 submission wins or something like that. Been submitted a couple times, but now that's 3 losses in a row for him. So that's never a good thing in the UFC. That used to be the magic number, where you lose 3 in a row or even lose 3 out of 4, and that's it. But good news for Paul Craig, who he's been very hot and cold in the UFC. It's like won his debut, then he lost 2, and he won 1, lost 1, won 1, lost 1, won 1, had a draw, and then he won this fight with Antigulov. So maybe he's just kind of finding his rhythm here. I would like to see success for him. He seems like a good dude, big supporter of autism awareness.
Yeah, he's got the puzzle piece tattoo.
Yeah, exactly. Former teacher, I believe, as well. So you like to see people like that do well. And then we had Cowboy Oliveira, just putting on a clinic against Peter Sobotta. We hadn't seen Sobotta in a while. I tend to favor him against anybody because he's just so well-rounded and so good. But, man, he had no answer for Cowboy Oliveira. And, Oliveira got that win bonus, can be able to feed his 15 kids.
Yeah, and speaking of bonuses, Paul Craig's going to be able to get that eye looked at thanks to that performance of the night bonus.
Yeah, right. It'll just
Dude,
cover
yeah, but
cover
dude,
his medical.
oh yeah, absolutely. I think that extra cash is definitely going to come in handy for that because he's going to need it. But dude, Alex Oliveira, man, Bill, I don't think you're giving him enough credit. He looked great in there. You know that teep to the body was doing wonders for him, dude. We saw Sobotta. I'm sorry, Peter Sobotta at the end of the first round. He just had this big red spot in the middle of his abdomen.
Yeah.
So I thought Alex Oliveira. Uh, Great job, looked good in there. His footwork was good. Dude, that body kick, that teep was working so well for him. And he just kept going back to the well on it. So, for me, I thought he looked really good in there. Probably the best he's looked in, I think in a couple of fights. He was exciting. He was methodical. And dude, he did such a great job of picking his shots and then not being there, able to find his range really, really quickly in this fight. So good for Alex Oliveira, man.
Yeah, like I said, he put on a clinic. He like pretty much shut Sabata out. Who, that's kind of what I was saying. I don't know if I made that point clear. Like I usually think that Sabata is gonna win. That's why I was impressed with the way Oliveira was able to shut him down. But yeah, great performance from him and Peter Sabata. Back to the drawing board. It sucks for him because he's a really good fighter who doesn't fight very often, so he doesn't stay like relevant to people. I would like to see him maybe a little bit more active. I don't know if he's had some injuries or whatever the case is, but nobody has been as active as Khamzat Chimaev, Jeff. 2 wins within, what was it, 8 days?
Yeah,
10 days? He shattered the record of shortest time between wins in the UFC. First round TKO over Rhys McKee. I think it took him a little bit longer than his win last week. But everybody's really high on this kid, man. And I guess for good reason. Like, he's a monster. Like, he just mauls people. Like, there's no, like, he's got so much pressure on top. It's like, what are you going to do with this guy? And Rhys McKee, tough guy, credit to him. I think really should be fighting at lightweight, but stepped up on short notice to get in there against Chimaev, who fought, just days ago and wanted to stay in Abu Dhabi and take another fight, and he did, and he looked great. And Felder was saying at the end, like, if there was a winner of Fight Island, it was Khamzat Chimaev, because he's the only one to do it twice. So he's in a club all by himself. Give me your thoughts on this kid, Jeff.
Dude, Chimaev looked awesome in there. And Bill, I don't know how many people know this, but his last fight, which was about a week ago, was at 185, and his fight last night was at 170. Dude,
Mm-hmm.
he weighed in at 171. So this dude's dedicated, man. Went down a weight class in a week and got another win in a week. So, man, I think the sky's the limit for this guy, dude. I know I don't like to jump on bandwagons right away, but Chimaev just looks so impressive in there. His fight last week, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's a tough dude, man. Really, really decorated striker.
John Phillips.
Yeah, John Phillips, thank you. Decorated striker, 22 wins as a professional, and now able to turn it around on a week's notice to step up against Rhys McKee. Really, really tough dude, man. I don't know, man. I'm just impressed by Chimaev. I still got to see how he does against some of the top competition in whatever weight class he chooses. But he's looking good, man. His grappling's good. Like we said last week, his level changes are fantastic, and that's what got him the takedown in this fight early on. And then he's just able to punish McKee, man. He got that Dagestani handcuff going where he locks down the one arm and just leaves you defenseless. And by the way, I love that they're calling it a Dagestani handcuff because of how often Khabib uses it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a fun name for it. It's really like a catch wrestling move. I'm not sure the exact name for it, but I'm sure you could trace that back to catch wrestling, which is the root of a lot of grappling in some people's opinions. And I wouldn't necessarily disagree. I'm just saying some people are big advocates of that. But yeah, I mean, good for him. Trains over there in Sweden with your boy Gustafsson and Ilir Latifi and those guys. And from what I hear, man, he puts it on Latifi in the gym grappling. Yeah, which Latifi's fighting at heavyweight now. So,
and he's like a national wrestling competitor, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. He's got some serious credentials. All right, so let's get into the most controversial fight of the night, Francisco Trinaldo. First of all, we got to berate this guy for coming in 5 pounds overweight. I mean, this guy's in his 40s. He's got to be more professional than this. I don't think it's the first time he's missed weight recently either. And to his credit, after the fight was over, he did say he's going to move up to 170. I think he called out Mike Perry. I'm fine with that. Let those two get in there and bludgeon each other. I'd watch it. Once Mike Perry sorts out all his personal issues, that is, of course, we want to see him work out his anger management and his alcoholism and whatever other demons he's battling first, of course. So Jai Herbert had a good showing in this against a veteran like Trinaldo, but Trinaldo was able to weather the storm. He had his back taken for like a good portion of that second round. Herbert comes in. He hasn't lost a fight. Interesting fact, his last loss was to Rhys McKee in 2016. So small world, this fight world. And it was a knockout loss as well. But since then, he put together 7 knockouts in a row.
Nice.
Yeah, he was over there in Cage Warriors, big fight promotion over in Europe. And, he looked really good in this fight. He had some moments. I hadn't known anything about him. So, but, it's never an easy night getting in there with a monster like Trinaldo, especially when he's carrying 5 extra pounds. So the controversy came in with the stoppage, Jeff, and the broadcast team, most specifically Dan Hardy, was really upset with the stoppage. I'm still kind of on the fence about it, and I got to set the scene because I was doing stuff with my daughter, right? So I had the fights playing on my laptop, and I had my Bluetooth headphones on. So I was like kind of doing chores around the house, and I could hear on my headphones like when the next fight was starting and if something was going on. But I was in the other room, and I can hear the commentary, and I hear Dan Hardy yelling, "Stop the fight, stop the fight." And so I go in, and I didn't catch the replay right away either because my daughter was probably breaking something. And then I saw Dan Hardy screaming at Herb Dean, and I was like, oh, man, this must have been really bad. And they were talking about how Herbert's legs stiffened up and everything like that. And before I tell you my opinion on it, Jeff, give me your thoughts on the stoppage.
Bill, I'm kind of on the fence about it, dude. I don't think Herb Dean is a bad ref. So it was. So for those of you who may not have watched it, definitely go back and watch it. One, it was a good fight leading up to that. But Francisco Trinaldo hit a straight right, just one straight punch that just immediately dropped Jay Herbert. And Jay Herbert, from what I saw, Jay Herbert, had his hands up, even though he was on the ground. He was kind of defending himself a little bit. That's what it looked like to me. I wasn't looking at his legs or anything. I didn't see anything stiffen up. But, he hit the deck pretty hard. So I wouldn't blame Herb Dean for stopping it there. But at the same time, when Trinaldo came over for the hammer fists, I saw Herbert's hands up by his face. To me, that tells me he's protecting himself. He kind of realizes what's going on. Mm-hmm. And then I hear Dan Hardy screaming, "Stop the fight, that's enough." And then even after the fact, as Herb Dean's getting ready for the decision, Dan Hardy yells at him, "That was twice now. That was twice this evening."
Yeah.
So I'll be honest with you. I'm a little bit on the fence. I could have seen that fight being stopped a couple of times, but there were little things there. There were signs that, it wasn't a bad stoppage. That's just my take on it.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, and probably a controversial opinion because When the broadcasters kind of put an idea out there, it's very one-sided because you never get to hear the referee's side. And Jeff, I'm the first one to jump all over bad refereeing because fighter safety is paramount. That's the reason they're there. What I saw, and I did see what Felder and Hardy were talking about, that his legs stiffened up when he hit the ground, but he did fall with one hand covering his face, and then his other hand went up into what's called a high guard. So he actually actively raised his arm to block shots. So Herb Dean circled himself so that he could get a good view of Herbert's face. So he's looking at his face. He's covering his face with the one hand, and his other hand is in a high guard to block potential attacks coming down. He saw Trinaldo stop, and he didn't want to stop the fight right there. And then when Trinaldo came down with the hammer fists and Herbert didn't move, that's when he broke it up because he thought he was going to defend the strikes that were coming his way. And when he didn't, then he stopped it. Were they unnecessary strikes? Probably. Should it have been stopped sooner? Yeah. But then you want to see the fighters get the benefit of the doubt too, because Herbert jumped right up and was like, "Hey, I was okay." He wasn't. But it's a tough judgment call, man. That's like split seconds. And I saw Herb Dean release a statement, which I'm usually not a fan of. I don't think. I think the referees, like, once they kind of start talking about the decisions they made, like we saw this kind of ruin Mario Yamasaki's career when he came out.
Mario Yamasaki ruined Mario Yamasaki's career.
Right? Yeah, but he could have just kept on being a bad referee because there's no consequences for these guys. It wasn't until he started opening his mouth that the athletic commission had to step in and stop letting him do this. They're like, all right, you could let guys get murdered in there, but like once you start talking about why you did it, that's where we draw the line. So yeah, man, it's tough. That's a hard job. And I'll be the first to tell you that Herb Dean's probably a little bit overrated. When people are calling him the best referee in the game, I think the best referees are the guys that you don't talk about that much. Guys like Dan Herzog. When do you ever hear Dan Herzog in one of these conversations about these controversial stoppage? Keith Peterson, obviously there was the Dominic Cruz fight that a lot of people were upset about, but Keith Peterson, I feel like is the gold standard. But yeah, I don't think it was. I thought it was unprofessional of Dan Hardy to come at Herb Dean the way he did. I get that he's upset, but he's also getting pissed off and yelling at 15-year-old boys on Twitter. So I tend to lean towards more Dan Hardy might have some anger issues to work out than if I had to choose, like, does Dan Hardy have anger issues or was it a bad stoppage? I'm telling you, if those are my choices, I would say Dan Hardy has anger issues. Like, it wasn't the best stoppage, but I can see the thought process. Like, I can see justifying it. And I didn't listen to all of Herb Dean's statement, so I can't really speak on that. I'm going to listen to it a little bit later. But yeah, it's just one of those things, Jeff. It's like, if you're the broadcaster, you're the voice of the company. You can't be berating people like that unless you're Joe Rogan. Like, Joe Rogan is pretty untouchable. Dan Hardy is not Joe Rogan. I wouldn't be surprised if we maybe saw some consequences from this one, unfortunately, for Dan Hardy. And Paul Felder was pissed too, but he didn't go over screaming at the official. The athletic commission is very protective of their guys, as we've seen, because they can't get fired for fucking anything unless they speak their minds.
Yeah, dude, I agree with you. I think all things considered, was Dan Hardy right to be upset? Yes, but I think he could have held it together a little bit better. And Bill, you gotta understand. I mean, Dan Hardy, you gotta understand. He's used to not getting his way, man. I mean, I also think he took a lot of shots to the head against George St. Pierre. So that might have affected him long term. I mean, George St. Pierre, beat the snot out of him. So
Yeah, it's unfortunate, man, and he's one of these guys too that's been kind of talking about a comeback for years now. He's like, I'm gonna come back, and I want to fight this guy, I want to fight that guy. It's like,
no,
man, you got a good situation going on. You get to, I mean, he's good at breaking down fights. He's a good analyst. But it seems like he's got some personal things he needs to work out, maybe a little bit. All right. We'll leave that at that. Jesse Ronson, man, this guy was super impressive. I hadn't heard of him, but he came in and just totally smashed Nicholas Dalby, who's a tough dude. I mean, he just broke this guy down within 3 minutes and tapped him out in the first round. Very impressive performance by Jesse Ronson. And like, for whatever reason, I expected him to have like an accent like Crow Cop or something when he talked, but he's just like a white guy. But he looks like he would have one of those like Eastern European accents, you know. But I was disappointed when he didn't. But I wasn't disappointed with his performance. I thought he looked amazing.
yeah.
And then I liked his call out after the fact. He said, I'm going back down to lightweight. This was short notice. I want to fight at lightweight. And if you're 6'3", I don't see how you could call yourself a lightweight. So Luis Pena or Jalen Turner, I want to smash your guts in, because he's like, he's like, you guys should be eating something instead of fighting at lightweight.
Yeah, we'll say that they eat like grass and ice cubes or something.
Yeah. Yeah, he did say something like that. But give me your thoughts on this one, and then we'll breeze through the rest of the card here.
Oh, dude, yeah, this fight was awesome, dude. Jesse Ronson just went in there and laid down the law, dude. Took control of the fight quick. As soon as it got to the ground, Nicholas Dalby looked in trouble. He was getting beat on, and then, Jesse Ronson able to snatch up that neck, dude. I know that they call Nicholas Dalby the body snatcher, but he got snatched up last night, dude.
No, I think Ronson is the body snatcher, actually.
Well, he snatched up that neck pretty quick when they got on the ground.
I like how you rolled with that one, Jeff. Bonus points for that. Yeah, man. I thought Ronson looked good. He looked impressive, and be interesting to see him in there at lightweight. So I'll say two heavyweights that really impressed me. Tom Aspinall making his UFC debut, a quick knockout of Jake Collier, who, for the record, started fighting in the UFC several years ago at 185 pounds, and now he's at heavyweight. Somebody said, I can't take credit for this joke, somebody said it looks like he's been in quarantine for the last 3 years.
That's good. I like that.
I wish I remember who said it so I could give credit. I'm really bad at stuff like that. I like to give credit where credit's due, Jeff. I like to only provide original content, and if I don't, I like to give you a source. But Tom Aspinall, man, really impressive. And then the other one was Tanner Boser with a second round knockout of Rafael Pessoa. Boser, man, looked really good. I want to see these two fight eventually, Aspinall and Boser, but I feel like they both need to be built up a little bit first. Aspinall, man, just lightning fast hands for heavyweight, ridiculous. And he looks like Frank Mir's son. But did you catch both of these fights, Jeff? And which heavyweight are you betting on in the future?
So I didn't catch the Tanner Boser versus Rafael Pessoa fight. I'll have to go back and watch that one. But, dude, Tom Aspinall making quick work of Jake Collier, dude. He hit him with this 1-2 bill, and he just hit the ground, Jake Collier, after the 1-2 shot, just dropped like a sack of potatoes, man. Yeah, I don't have an opinion on Tom Aspinall because I only saw him for 45 seconds.
Yeah.
But he was dangerous, dude. So I'm excited to get in there again.
And at heavyweight, that could happen. And you're talking about a guy in Jake Collier who hasn't fought in like 2 years and last fought at light heavyweight or middleweight. So yeah, we haven't seen that much from him, but it's enough to get excited about. I'd say they're both marketable prospects in this heavyweight division for sure. It'll be interesting to see how they evolve. All right, I'm just gonna breeze over the rest of this card, Jeff. Movsar Evelev getting the unanimous decision over Mike Grundy, who Grundy looked great in the first round, but then just couldn't keep up with the pace of Evelev for the rest. I love Grundy's wrestling and his transitions. He looked really good in there, especially in that first round. But at the end of it, he was looking beat up, and Evelev looks like he just went for a walk in the park. Pani Khamzat getting a unanimous decision over Betch Correa. This was just a one-sided beatdown. She just picked her apart, and Betch had her moments in this fight where she landed some big shots, but she got pieced up bad, man. Betch even dropped herself. Like she hit Pani with a hook, and then like stumbled herself, like the recoil hit her in the face. And then she stumbled herself. Like it's a bad night when you almost knock yourself out. But I was really impressed with Pani Khamzat. I thought she's made a lot of improvements. I like the way she fights smart and keeps her hands up and throws big punch combinations. Ramazan Ameev getting a unanimous decision over Nicholas Stolze, and Nathaniel Wood unanimous decision victory over John Castaneda. Not a whole lot of opinion about any of that. I didn't catch the Nathaniel Wood fight. If that's one that I need to go back and watch, if it was like a real a really underappreciated fight, please do let me know. You want to put a bow on this card and talk about the next one coming up here, kid?
It sounds like a plan to me, Bill.
All right, so next week we're back on American soil at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. UFC Fight Night 173. Derek Brunson against Edmund Shabazian. A lot of people are talking about this one like Derek Brunson is, the calf being led to slaughter here. Against the undefeated Shabazian, who, has looked phenomenal in the UFC so far. 11-0. This kid is just absolutely on fire. He can strike, he can grapple, he can do it all. Knocked out Brad Tavares with that big head kick, submitted Jack Marshman. I just think this is a different level really quick for Shabazian. He's a young kid. Brunson has seen it all. He's got a lot of issues that he's needed to work out, like his brawling and his rushing in. But, we kind of saw him fix that in I believe it was the Elias Theodorou fight. We saw him really patient in there, really pick his spots, use his wrestling beautifully. He had that, he gave Theodorou those frequent flyer miles in that fight. With the big slam. If we're seeing, and then he beat Ian Heinisch after that. So I don't understand why people are already counting Derek Brunson out. I do realize that they're building up Edmund Shabazian and they're trying to feed him a big name, but man, it's a tough ask because if you look at his last couple of losses, he had that head kick loss to Jacare, and then he got knocked out by Adesanya, but he was super emotional in that Adesanya fight, man. They had like a lot of personal stuff going on. But since then, the Theodorou fight and the Ian Heinisch fight, he's fought smart, he's fought calculated, and picked his spots in there, man. And I'm not saying that Shabazian can't go out there and smoke him. I just don't see how you can count Derek Brunson out like he's never done anything because this guy is an elite level fighter. Give me your thoughts, kid.
Dude, I don't know why you would ever count out Derek Brunson, man. Dude is tough, man, well-rounded. He can strike, he can grapple, huge credentials in wrestling. Dude, I'd be worried for Edmund Shabazian. You're undefeated in the UFC and you get a main event. This is not the fight you take, dude. Listen, man, if the UFC is trying to build him up, they're going about it the wrong way. I don't think Derek Brunson's the person to throw him at here. you know, credit to both of these guys. You know, Shabazian undefeated, that's awesome, but that could turn into a loss against Derek Brunson, dude. Brunson can grind it out for 5 rounds. We haven't seen him do it, but I think he's fully capable, dude. Guy's got cardio for days. His wrestling, he can absolutely grind somebody out to a decision if he needs to. And he's got some exciting wins too. He's got a couple of finishes. The last couple of fights haven't gone well. Listen, the middleweight division's tough, and like you said, a lot of emotions going into the Adesanya fight.
Yeah.
A lot of smack talk for that one, and we've seen it with everybody who fights Conor McGregor. When emotions are involved, it's a whole different ballgame. But dude, I think this fight's definitely going to be fireworks. Edmund Shabazian, he can definitely prove himself if he wins against Derek Brunson. That's a huge feather in your cap as a middleweight, but that is no easy task either, man. That's going to be a tough mountain to climb.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget, Derek Brunson was knocking guys out left and right in the UFC. Knocked out Lyoto Machida, knocked out Uriah Hall, knocked out Sam Alvey, knocked out Ed Herman. So I think he really fell in love with knocking guys out. So when he got in there with the elite guys like Whittaker, Adesanya, Jacare, he wanted that knockout feeling, and I feel like he's corrected that. Some of you may remember the Robert Whittaker fight when he ran face first across the like a rooster running after a snake or something, and he just got clipped up real quick. But based on his last two performances, we've seen a Derek Brunson who's learned to practice patience, and that's a dangerous Derek Brunson. So yeah, man, I think it's a fun fight. It's an interesting matchup because Shabazian's a young kid. He's good everywhere. He's one of these kids who came up as a mixed martial artist. Brunson's a guy who came up as a wrestler and started knocking dudes out. So it could be a changing of the guard, or it could be Derek Brunson, putting a young stallion in his place. I'm just gonna breeze over the rest of this card for the sake of time, Jeff, and you tell me what really sticks out to you. Co-main event, Joanne Calderwood coming back, taking on Jennifer Maia. I think that's a really interesting matchup. This one is fire. Vicente Luque and Randy Brown. Holy shit, that's a great card. That's a great fight. And then a one before that, Lando Venata and Bobby Green. That's two fights in a row where I can almost guarantee you're not going to see anybody shoot for a takedown. Frankie Saenz taking on Jonathan Martinez. Then we got Ed Herman and Gerald Meerschaert. Not a lot of people talking about this one. This might be like a loser leaves town kind of deal here. Ed Herman has been around forever, part of the original Team Quest. And Meerschaert, grizzled veteran, but he's been having a tough go of it. Decisions not going his way, and then dropping the last big loss to Ian Heinisch. Then we got Ray Borg somewhere at the bottom of this card, taking on Joseph Nathan Menes, Marcus Perez, and Eric Spicely. That should be a fun one. And that's it. Tell me what you're looking forward to the most in Las Vegas next week, Jeff.
Well, first off, this whole card looks really, really exciting, but I cannot wait for Lando Venata versus Bobby Green and Vicente Luque versus Randy Rude Boy Brown, man. Bill, I'm a little biased in that one because Randy Brown trains out of New York. He's a Renzo Gracie guy, but dude, what an exciting fight, man! Vicente Luque, always a tough fight in this welterweight division. An elite class striker. Same with Lando Venata and Bobby Green, dude. Both of those fights. I think that if you have to stop and get a beer or go to the bathroom, don't do it in between those two fights.
Yeah. Put the cooler next to the couch for that.
Absolutely, dude. Get a bucket or something, because I would not want to miss those two fights, man.
Yeah, for sure. Those are four guys that you never want to miss, and of course, Venata and Bobby Green have fought before. They fought to a draw back in 2017, and it was a split draw, and I don't remember. Who went which way, but Venata is always exciting, man. I mean, he had the draw with Matt Frivola too, and that was one of the best fights I've ever seen in my life. And at the end of it, they were like, "It's a draw," and I was like, "Oh, All right. I'll take it. Hopefully, Venata's able to string a few wins together. We'll be able to see that one again sometime down the line. But he's coming off a win over Yancy Medeiros, and Bobby Green's coming off a win, so they're finally going to settle the score with that draw. So that I'm glad you picked those two fights. Those are the two that stand out to me, absolutely. And for nostalgic reasons, I'm looking forward to the Ed Herman Gerald Meerschaert fight. I'm a big fan of both of those guys. They've both been doing this forever, so it'll be cool to see them get in there. Yeah, man, fun card. And we're gonna be into August. The summer's almost over, kid. So when we're watching this card, it'll be August. And yeah, man. So I'll end on another bit of a personal story. I've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks. We've been going on a lot of bike rides, as you know, Jeff. And I brought my bike in for a tune-up, and I don't have like a really high quality bike or anything like that. I just got it from like a sporting goods store years ago, and I just maintained it on my own. Never really got a tune-up, and brought it in for a tune-up, and the guy was like, "Oh, you need this, and this," and it would cost more in repairs and replacement parts than the bike is even worth. So I got to get myself a new bike, and I'm thinking about upgrading, like getting something a little bit better quality, but that's still not going to break the bank, since we've been taking the kid on a lot of bike rides. Since there's not a whole lot else to do, we go out early in the morning when it's cool, and explore different trails in the area, and we travel with the bikes and drive to different trails. So if anybody has any recommendations, any cyclists out there who know some like good brands or like some good ways to go about buying a bicycle. I know it's a horrible time to be in the market for one, because since the quarantine, a lot of people are looking for bicycles. But if anybody has any words of advice, I would definitely appreciate it. Just as I appreciate all the support for the show, all the listens, all the shares, all the downloads. For some reason, Jeff, the numbers keep going up. Not so much on the video, but the audio, we're just like, we're worldwide, kid. I mean, we had Australia and Peru on a broadcast live tonight, and then we're going out to all over Europe and all over the world. Shout out to all the people in Norway that are tuning in, one of the top countries, all the people in the UK, Canada, all across the United States. It's just awesome, man. It's just you and I for the past 4 years. We've just been bullshitting about fights and booze and like whatever else comes up, and bees at the gas station, Sunday soup. So it's just awesome, man, that people like listening to this, and that, we've kind of built like a foundation of a community here. And, I like hearing from everybody, and I appreciate everybody who's picked up an MMA on the Rocks t-shirt, which if you haven't yet, you can do so. To make it easy, I put it in the link in the show notes, both on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're listening to this. Just go to the show details, and you can click right on the link and grab yourself a t-shirt from our friends over at Rip Life One Team Reaper. Awesome company, by the way, veteran owned. They support veterans. They give a lot of money to veterans, so that's always a good thing. A lot of crazy times out there, so we gotta support the people who are fighting for our freedoms here. So yeah, if you want, go and grab yourself a t-shirt, and give us a shout on social media. You can get a hold of Jeff on Twitter and Instagram at @animal_Wilson. You guys know how to get a hold of me. It's at Man the Rocks everywhere on social media. We love hearing from you guys. We love talking booze and fights and anything else you guys want to talk about. We really appreciate everything and everything. Anything you want to get off your chest, Jeff, or we're going to call it a night here?
Yeah, dude. I mean, with everything going on, there's rioting everywhere, a virus. In the words of Jerry Springer, take care of yourselves and each other. We already fight an invisible enemy. We don't need to fight each other.
Yeah. Be good to each other out there, please, folks. We'll be back. We'll be back here next week. So until next time. Cheers, everybody. Goodbye.